I don't, look, I agree that a guy could be a provider and not be a traditional guy. Absolutely. But it's the expectation on the woman's part that, oh, well, if he doesn't pay for the first date, there's not going to be a second one. It's a man's job to pay for the first date. Well, it's a woman's job to not prostitute herself online.
How far have we fallen that these are what the demands are? Pay for the first date. Don't be on OF then. It really is too much to ask with some women these days.
Okay, well, maybe if we go on a couple dates and, and we eventually get in a relationship and you don't like that, then I'll stop. But I'm
regardless, that's still not a traditional man.
But I just don't get the whole, like, I'm a modern woman, I'm free, like sexually free, I can do hands, but I also want to hold men to this very narrow standard of what their gender roles are. It's
not even a narrow standard what their gender roles are. They already have so many men who are throwing money at them for literally doing nothing. If they have a partner who comes into their life and is like, oh, I'm not paying for dinner, or I'm not doing that, she's gonna be like, well, I can just get my Discord boyfriend to do it then.
And women cannot keep their hands out of the cookie jar, unfortunately. That is what we have learned from this whole experiment of introducing human sexuality to the internet. The reason we had traditional gender roles is because women's beauty is an asset, a commodity. There are some men who are simps and can't stop themselves from pursuing it in an unhealthy and unrestrained way. And women's beauty can be used to interfere with men in their life purpose because of that. So it was necessary for women to act and behave in a modest and respectable way. If you give women complete sexual liberty, what we've found is that they will use their sexuality to exploit weak men, and they are too short-sighted to care about the long-term consequences of this exploitation. And now, if you want to date a woman, you potentially have to compete with all of her sugar daddies and all of the simps who are giving her attention and gifts. This is a ridiculous overinflation of women's SMV. And it's like a child drinking antifreeze because it tastes sweet at first, but ultimately will have dire consequences later on. We're already in a situation where women are as or more educated than men. Young women especially are making as much or more money than young men, at least in major cities. So finding a man of equal or higher status has only gotten harder for them. And then on top of that, some of them want to have a side hustle of selling their bodies online. This is an obviously unhealthy and unsustainable state of affairs, and it exposes the fact that if they had ever actually been interested in true social equality with men, they wouldn't be complaining about going halvesies on the first date. Feminism and equality in women's minds never involved them actually taking on more responsibilities.
I can just get this OnlyFans dude to tip me some money.
Yes.
That's what the problem is. They are so used to it that you can't expect them to date somebody who wouldn't do what a million strangers are already doing for them.
You're right.
I think
that's the difference.
Short-term solutions, but long-term problems.
Yeah, I would also agree with that, but that's a whole different conversation. Because they're not getting traditional men. Like, stop it there. Like,
well, I'm not looking for men in general. I honestly, I might be a feminist.
But you can't wait to be pregnant and start a family and do all this.
Okay, not feminist, but like, I don't really want to depend on a man to like provide for me.
Hold on, no. You just said
if he wanted me to stop doing OnlyFans, then he should provide for me. Because why does he have to say if he's not providing for me?
Wait,
like, I can do what I want to do.
You just said you're not looking for a guy to. You don't want to.
I don't want to depend on a man. But
expecting a man to pay for the first date is literally you depending on the man.
Okay, but you're saying that I can't do OnlyFans if he wants to pay for the first date.
Showing your body to strangers online is not respectable. This needs to be reinforced again and again and again. Men should not even be dating women who are actively doing OF or have ever even done OF. It should really disqualify women from being a potential partner. Because part of what is valuable to men about a woman's sexuality is its exclusivity. Because he has exclusive sexual access to her sexuality, which is, as I said before, a commodity, an asset. But now any man can see it for $5.95. That's shameful. It's a shameful situation. And on top of all that, now she's pigeonholed herself because she either doesn't have the skills to get a real, decent, well-paying job, or her reputation is ruined because of what she's already doing. So she set herself up in this precarious position where she feels very insecure, and now to actually settle down at all, she's going to demand an extreme amount of commitment from a man, which is totally unfair, ridiculous double standard. But again, modern women do not think these things through.
Then, okay, then provide for me if you don't want me to do OnlyFans.
You can,
that's my job.
but the expectation is a little, let's say, unfair.
Well, that's life.
I have something to say. Yeah. Some guys that do pay for meals, because they paid, they also expect sex. Because they paid for a meal. I'm not gonna lie. Some occasions I've paid for my own food just to like not deal with stuff. So as much as women expecting that, some men expect, oh, I paid for her meal. Now I want, like, you gotta have sex with me. Like, just some weird shit.
Okay. Well, I think that expectation's weird, but I certainly agree with you that there's definitely men who think that way.
That was whataboutism and distracts from the issue at hand.
Not all.
Yeah, not all, but I think that's a bad way to look. It's just like it's weird to me because it's like, here's this gendered expectation on men, which in my view is sort of a traditional gender role, to be a provider, to pay for first dates. It's like, how are you gonna have that expectation on men, but not like be the most modern type of woman possible?
Because they are modern and they already have people who are willing to do it, so why wouldn't they?
Literally an admission they cannot see the bigger picture or help themselves.
It's just like, to me, it's like, well, if you acknowledge that you're a modern woman, just be like, yeah, I guess we could split the bill.
No, but they're going after modern men that just happen to be providers.
Brian should have stopped her right here. A modern man is not a provider. Providing for a woman is a traditional thing for a man to do, which women like this are unworthy of.
Right, but there are modern men who are also down to go 50-50.
They are, but
what's wrong with dating them?
That's not what they want. That's not what they want.
Right, because feminism is a buffet. You get to pick and choose that which benefits you. No, it's different if
you're like broke and like whatever, but like...
Right, but you wouldn't date a broke guy.
I have dated a lot of broke guys.
Okay, whatever.
But I think that I've learned from that.
They were all broke. You just got out of high school.
Yeah, I guess that's true, yeah.
That's also a very big issue with this conversation right now.
But I know, but my point is that, like, if he wants me to not do OnlyFans and wants to be traditional, then provide for me so I won't do OnlyFans.
Give me money or I'll continue to be an open hole. Wow, what a deal.
I think the issue is here, men. Men, I'm talking to you.
Boat has sailed.
If you don't want your girl to do OnlyFans, don't date a girl who's on OnlyFans, because it will always remain an issue.
Agreed.
The problem with this sort of thinking is that on an individual level, it's true in a sense, although if you step back and look collectively, for every woman that is an open hole, there's going to be one man who cannot find a qualified wife and mother or long-term partner. I hate this almost quasi-libertarian attitude that just pervades the modern social landscape, where anyone can do anything they want at any time unless it's like literally hurting someone physically. Like, your actions have consequences. They affect other people. They affect the whole community that is this country. Like, society as an idea is nothing but the aggregate of everyone's interpersonal relationships. And if you conduct yours in this disgusting, open hole, transactional way like this woman does, it's going to have a ripple effect. It's going to affect other people.
Any man who's going to be willing to date someone who does OnlyFans is, like, in the long run, not going to be a good man.
Well, I mean, the reality is a man that's more willing to want to date a woman that does OnlyFans is less likely to want to be, he's going to be more likely to want to be like a 50-50.
Yeah.
Provider. Like, he's not going to want to
later in the future.
Yeah. That's a generalization. That's, you know.
You're probably going to find more luck in dating if you were to date a more modern man or someone who is like, hey, let's go 50-50, because that's the type of man that's going to be willing to put up with the OnlyFans account. It's like finding a unicorn, to find some man who wants to be your provider, but is also like a leader as well. That's an extreme contradiction. So good luck finding the unicorn. It's probably not going to happen.
I mean, and also the thing is, a lot of men that do date you, if you have an OnlyFans, might be looking at you to be able to cash out themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They're the guys who are more likely going to be like, hey, if I pay for X many dates or one date, she's going to put out, because she puts out for all these other guys.
Not just that, but the courses that people like take sales and stuff, you know, like it's literally on like pimping women.
I've learned a new term today. Tate sell. Are you a Tate sell? Tell me in the comments. Oh, she says Tate sells, not Tate sells. Never mind. Still funny.
You also have to take into account that the kind of men that you're dating around our age range are probably not making as much money as you are, so it's a lot harder for them to
definitely not
be a provider.
Yeah. Look, if I can kind of make it slightly political, like if you're a woman and you consider yourself to have progressive political values, you're liberal, you're Democrat, it's crazy for you to want for a man to pay for the first date. I think that's crazy.
Yeah. Modern women's deepest desire, unfortunately, is like this blue pill alpha. Some high-earning, masculine guy who's a great leader, who also somehow shares their delusional luxury politics progressive views of the world. It's this completely contradictory amalgam of traits. Equality and tolerance are unmasculine values. Male feminists are definitionally not chads. It's like a law of nature.
Like if you have progressive social values, you're not really progressive. If in like society you want things to be progressive, but you want to go back to patriarchy in your relationship, that's crazy to me. You gotta be across the board with that shit. Oh, and then hold on. So just going around the table on this, who do you think should pay for the first? We'll just reiterate it. I don't think everybody answered.
Men.
Most of the time, men.
Men. The man.
Men.
Men if they asked.
Madison.
I was gonna say man.
Man.
Wait, and we'll go around the table again, but I'll start with
Killer of Cereal donated $200. Is end goal for seeking dates to ultimately procreate in a traditional sense? Start a family, love, have children? Seeking a sugar daddy isn't traditional because it's a transactional relationship.
Definitely, but I don't know if that was to me. The only reason why I brought up sugar daddying is because the men they're going to find that are willing to provide for them in that sense are going to be closer to a sugar daddy than an actual partner.
I feel like there's like tons of guys that like will still pay for the first date and like will want to get to know us. I don't know, that knows.
I'm
that
glad
we're
that's working for you then. I'm glad it's working out for you.
Doesn't have a problem with it.
I don't really even go on dates, or like I don't have interest in even going on dates or like finding a relationship with a man, because I've already been like, before I even did OnlyFans, like it's never worked out. Like men are just pieces of shit most of the time.
Your average woman just has like this seething hatred for men, this immense well of antipathy and contempt for men. And they're really antinatalist because of it. Like, if women weren't women, they would be viewed as incels, if you know what I mean. Like, if women, didn't have their looks and the traditional expectations that went along with them, like, we would view them as incels. They have, like, an incel mentality. They're just this awful antinatalist worldview kind of permeates the feminine consciousness, the feminine collective consciousness in this country today, unfortunately. They are incredibly bitter and utterly convinced of their own victimhood.
So I think that might be
a reason men that are
erroneous.
Being attracted towards you might be pieces of shit because of the things that you are.
I just said before.
Thank you, Killer of Cereal.
Well, before OnlyFans, you were in high school, so a lot of guys are pieces of shit in high school.
So you're telling me that
disagree. That's sexist.
Like the douche's time. Besides college or high school, that's like
statement.
the 4 years for a guy to be a douche and it'd be okay.
What about women at that age?
A lot of them are bitches
Same
too.
thing.
Yeah, I was a bitch in high school.
Yeah, you're telling me that immature men are willing to say whatever they want to get you to sleep with them? Like they're willing to pay, they're willing to say anything.
So okay, I was in the middle of a thing before the TTS came in. So okay, so those of you you answered who should pay. Just starting with, we'll start with you and then you. You guys want to get married?
Yeah.
Does everybody who wants to get married one day?
Well, I mean,
yeah,
I do.
Show of hands. No. Okay. So wait, starting with you, then we'll go around. Will you take your husband's last name?
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah. Of course.
I'm going to add it.
You're going to hyphenate?
Well, I'm not going to hyphenate. I'm going to make my last name my middle name, and then his last name my last name.
I would probably consider doing something like that too.
The only reason is because it's half of my identity is my last name. Like, you can't even tell what race I am without my last name. So I feel like that's a very big part of me.
What race is Kiko? Any guesses? Put them in the comments. I always assumed she was Hispanic. Or perhaps Afro-Latina, as is the politically correct way to say that today.
And I don't want to lose it.
Honestly, if he had a cool last name though and it flowed with my first name, like I would not hyphenate.
Yeah, maybe it's also part of my boyfriend has like one of the most common last names in America. So going from my unique ass last name that like tells you my race or my nationality or ethnicity as soon as you hear it versus his, no.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
You.
But I also don't plan on getting married.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to get married, but I'd probably like add it on.
Add it, so hyphenate?
Actually, you know what? I'd probably just take his last name. Because if I'm going to get married, I'm going to assume it's going to last.
Madison, what about you?
I would take his last name for sure.
All right, hold on. Let me read this really quick.
Man, this country is headed for a cliff. Follow me on Twitter if you made it this far, or join the Instagram. Two fine options. Trying to grow my social media presence. Help me out. Share this video if you enjoyed it. That's the #1 way you can help this channel. And Red Channels will catch you in the next one.